Here at Newsmax, we've been covering stories about liberal social media companies effectively censoring conservatives by prioritizing what we all see in our feeds. Remember that Google employee who was fired after he criticized the company's diversity policies? Well, he sued the company, claiming that he and others were harassed over their political views. That's just one of the recent stories responsible for setting off a huge debate about the dangers of groupthink inside Silicon Valley and the tech industry. We now have new data gathered by a group called Lincoln Network. They conducted a survey of nearly 400 tech employees on how they perceive the industry's ideological openness. And here to talk about that is Garrett Johnson. He's the co-founder of Lincoln Network. Garrett, it's great to have you on with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's get you to comment on some of these results. The first one asked respondents, and I know someone who did not pursue or who left a career in tech because of perceived conflicts in viewpoints. That's the question that they were asked. This graph shows a big increase in the number of those who feel that, and they tilt very conservative. What was your reaction when you saw the answer to this specific question?
We were surprised to see those numbers reflected in the data. It skews towards the conservative or very conservative. That's where you mentioned of its kind that's focused on trying to understand the landscape for viewpoint diversity in tech. There are lots of people at tech companies who are capturing data when it comes to ethnic diversity or gender or sexual orientation. But we think viewpoint diversity is important, and so this pilot study tries to capture some of that initial data.
All right, now let's take a look at another graph we have here. It shows that after Google released their so-called diversity memo, those who consider themselves very conservative feel much less comfortable sharing their ideology. What does this say to you about a workplace if this is the mindset of a select number of employees?
Well, it says that it's a problem across the board. So if you are very conservative, you are more than 80% less comfortable sharing your viewpoint, which is understandable given that Silicon Valley and specifically San Francisco leans very liberal. But if you are conservative, moderate, you're still above 50% less comfortable sharing your viewpoints. Even, many liberals said that they were less comfortable sharing their viewpoints. I remember a specific quote where a person said that I'm a liberal and I agreed 90% with most of what, the progressive message is. But because of that 10% gray area where I may or may not agree, I'm afraid to share my perspective because I think that they're going to, target me. So there's a problem clearly in the tech industry, in Silicon Valley specifically, where we capture this data. I was talking to a journalist yesterday. I won't mention her name or affiliation, but she's a Democrat, worked in the Obama White House. She says that when she goes out to San Francisco, she feels weird because she's not liberal enough.
That is saying something. I have one more graph I want to take a look at and show our viewers at home. This one is stunning. And it says that almost 90% of very conservative employees in Silicon Valley say they are hesitant of being themselves at work. And again, what kind of impact does this have on the productivity of a business when employees feel like they can't be themselves there?
Well, I think the data still needs to be captured to understand to what extent, this bring your whole self idea really impacts productivity. But when you look at data and analysis around the efforts to increase gender diversity and ethnic diversity, much of that data and the encouragement to create a more diverse workforce, which I generally agree with, is premised on the notion that this leads to better products, it leads to a stronger company, and ultimately greater value for shareholders. So my assumption is, and we're capturing data to back this up, that if diversity issues as it relates to gender and ethnicity and sexual orientation matter to the bottom line, then viewpoint diversity also matters to the bottom line. And so companies need to take it more seriously.